Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Soulful Saturdays with Saylor. Around here, we cut through the noise, ditch the fluff, and dive straight into what matters: spiritual wellness, radical self acceptance, unapologetic soulful living. Each week, I'll bring you the truth with a side of sass, reflections that wake you up, and reminders that you are glorious. So, whether you got your journal, your coffee, or that wild, messy bun, you are exactly where you are meant to be. Hello, soulful family. Cindy here. Oh, let's talk about soulful living. Does anyone else feel like fall sneaks up and wraps you in a blanket and whispers, "Slow down"? But your to do list didn't get the memo. I swear, one minute it's sunny at 8 p.m., and the next, I'm wondering if it's socially acceptable to be in bed by 7:30. And here's the thing, there's a rhythm to this season. Yes, there is. The air changes, the light shifts, and something deep in us starts to crave comfort and calm. We just don't always give ourselves permission to lean into it. Instead, we keep pushing, hustling, scrolling, and we wonder, why are we so tired? So let's pause for a second. Take a deep breath right now. Yes, feel that. That's what your soul's been asking for: space to breathe, to ground, to come home to yourself. Today's episode isn't about doing more, it's about doing less and with intention. We're talking about simple, cozy rituals that help you reconnect with what really matters. Think lighting a candle at sunset, savoring your morning tea, writing one line of gratitude before bed. Little things that bring you back to your center when life starts to spin. Because soulful living isn't about perfection, it's about presence. So grab your mug, get comfy, and let's cozy our souls together. You ready? I am. So let's get real for a minute. We all love the idea of soulful rituals. But when life gets busy, it's easy to think, I don't have time for that. I mean, between the emails, the errands, and trying to remember if we took the chicken out of the freezer, who's got time to be all zen, right? Yeah. And and that's exactly where I want to start today. Because soulful living isn't about having more time. It's about using the time you already have differently. So let me break it down. The ritual thing. Let's break this down because somewhere along the line, that word got hijacked. We started thinking that rituals had to be this perfect, polished Pinterest moment. Candles lined up just right, soft music playing, maybe a little sage smoke swirling dramatically in the air. And if it didn't look like that, we thought, well, it doesn't really count. But let's be honest. Most of us are lucky if we remember to drink water and put the laundry in the dryer before it mildews. So when someone says create a daily ritual, your brain goes, ugh, another thing to do. Here's the tough truth. You don't need to add more to your list. You don't need an altar, a chant, or a 30-minute meditation cushion moment. You just need to make space for presence. Because that's all a ritual really is: a pause with purpose. It's the tiny intentional act that says, I'm here, I matter, this moment matters. And the crazy thing is, those little pauses, they change the energy of the whole day. Let's talk about the reality we're all living in right now. We're running on fumes. We're overstimulated, overcommitted, and under rested. Do you agree with me? I sure hope a bunch of hands just went flying up because, yes, half the time we are running on autopilot, juggling work, family, dinner, and 1,000 tiny decisions that leave our brains fried before lunchtime. And I don't know about you, but by 8 p.m., I'm out here having a full conversation with my blanket like, girl, you get me. That's why my soulful rituals aren't luxuries, they're necessities. They're like little mini pit stops for my soul. Think about how often we stop and just go through the motions. How often are we just going through the motions? We scroll before bed and call it unwinding, then wonder why we wake up feeling like we didn't rest. We gulp down our morning coffee, already planning the day, barely tasting a drop. We eat dinner in front of a screen and somehow the day just disappears into the blur. And then we ask ourselves why we feel disconnected. Here's your reality check. Your soul doesn't live in the blur. It lives in the moments. The taste, the breath, the sound, the stillness. That's where your aliveness is hiding. So when I talk about creating soulful rituals, I'm not talking about some big production. I'm talking about taking your ordinary and sprinkling it with a little bit of sacred. Like if you light a candle at night, do it with intention. Instead of just flicking the lighter and moving on, take a second to breathe and whisper, I'm closing the day with peace. Boom! That's a ritual. If you drink your coffee in the morning, pause long enough to inhale the aroma and say, here's to a fresh start. That's a ritual. If you sit in your car before walking into work, take one deep breath and remind yourself, I can handle what's ahead of me. That's a ritual. See how simple this is? No crystals required unless you love crystals. No ceremony needed unless that fills you up. This isn't about rules or routines. It's about rhythm. The rhythm that keeps your soul steady while the world does what it does. Spin fast, demand more, pull your attention in 10 directions all at once. And here's the part people miss. When we weave these little pauses into our day, you begin to build an internal anchor. That's right. You start anchoring yourself. You start to feel more rooted. You start responding instead of reacting. And instead of rushing from one thing to the next, you move with a little grace, maybe even a little joy. Because those tiny sacred moments, those are the ones that fill your cup back up. They remind you that life isn't something to get through, it's something to be in. So, soulful living isn't about being perfect or performing calmness or posting a quote about mindfulness while you're secretly melting down inside. No, it's about finding small ways to come home to yourself over and over again. Your rituals are the return route. They're how you remember who you are when life gets loud. They're how you pull yourself back to your center, even if it's just for one breath at a time. So. If we take a step back and we breathe for a moment, here's the thing. Rituals don't have to be a huge, fancy, or Instagram worthy, or actually, if they work, right? In fact, the smaller, the simpler, the better, because small is doable and doable is sustainable. So I want to give you a little story. This is from a friend of mine. Excuse me. This is a friend of mine, and we're going to call her Sarah. She was feeling completely burnt out last fall, and she told me, I don't have time for yoga, journaling, or any of the self care stuff. But she did have time for one thing, her morning coffee. So we turned that into a ritual. Every morning, she paused for one full minute to sip her coffee and breathe. No phone, no emails, no planning. Just the smell, the warmth, and one deep inhale and exhale. And she noticed something surprising. That one tiny pause caused her entire morning to be able to breathe. She started calmer, more focused, and even a little happier before the day officially began. That's the magic of the pivot. And I love the pivot point. The pivot point is being able to see a small, ordinary moment and realizing it can be extraordinary if you're being intentional with it. And it doesn't stop there. I started experimenting with my own little rituals this fall, lighting a candle at sunset and just watching the flame flicker while thinking about one thing I was grateful for. And it only took 2 minutes. But it's enough to slow your brain down. I was able to slow my brain down, especially at the end of the day. A mini gratitude walk around the block. Now, not a power walk, not doing errands, just noticing the leaves, feeling the crisp air, the sound of my footsteps. I call it my soul check-in. Yes, and it's fabulous. Once again, it allows you to slow down. And the journal one line. This is a beautiful trick right before bed. Sometimes it's profound, sometimes it's silly, but it closes my day on a note of presence instead of exhaustion. And here's the aha moment. You don't need to overhaul your whole life to feel grounded. You just need a few soulful pauses sprinkled throughout your day. Little invitations to reconnect with yourself. That's how we pivot from surviving to thriving. And guess what else? Once you start seeing these tiny rituals as gifts, little love notes to your soul, they naturally expand. You start noticing more moments worth savoring, and your energy begins to shift. You're less reactive, more centered, and yes, even more playful. So, this is where the fun begins. We're not talking about a perfect ritual list or some spiritual checklist. We're talking about your rhythm, your way of pausing and grounding. Even 5 seconds here, 2 minutes there, it all counts. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in our next session. And then this section is called the real conversation. That's where we dive into everyday life, storytelling, and those cozy fall friendly practices that you can actually try. The ones that make your soul feel at home in the season. Because, friends, if you're going to cozy your soul this fall, we need to see the small moments create the biggest shifts. And that's exactly what's next. So, now let's get our hearts really into this, the real conversation about cozying your soul. You know, soulful rituals aren't just about feeling good in the moment. They're about creating a little sanctuary inside your day, a place where you can actually show up for yourself. And if you're honest, and most of us don't do that enough, let me give you some real life examples from my own world. The messy, ordinary, beautifully imperfect life that we all live. And the first step, my morning grounding ritual. Some mornings I roll out of bed, hair sticking straight up in every direction, and my brain is already drafting the to-do list before I even open up my eyes. And yet, I take 2 deep breaths. I place my feet on the floor and whisper, I'm here. I matter. Today counts. It sounds small, almost silly, right? But it changes my energy instantly. My whole body, my whole mood, even the way I react with people shifts. That's the power of just showing up for yourself. Then there's the gratitude jar. Oh. I love this one. Every evening, I like to write down one thing that I'm grateful for, no matter how big, how small. And yesterday, it was as simple as the leaves looked like they were on fire on my walk. That little slip of paper goes into the jar, and when you read them back through the jar like weeks later, it's like a highlight reel of your own life. Proof that even in the chaos, there's always beauty, always something to smile about. Oh, and now don't get me started on my tea time reflection. I actually started making tea part of my daily ritual this fall. And not just drinking it mindlessly, I watch the steam curl. I inhale the aroma and I ask myself, what do I need tonight? Rest? Connection? Release? It's 2 minutes of intentional reflection and how it makes the rest of my evening feel lighter. Oh, and here's my aha moment for you. Soulful rituals don't have to take time from your life. They enhance your life. They're little secrets, secret passages back to your center when everything else is pulling you in a million directions. And let's be real, sometimes life gets messy. Sometimes you forget your rituals. Sometimes you gulp your coffee like it's survival fuel. That's okay. Soulful living isn't about perfection, it's about presence. Again and again, showing up for yourself little by little. Another one that I absolutely love to share is what I call the pause and notice walk. I just don't power walk. I don't even have headphones. I just step outside, feel the crisp air on my face, notice the leaves crunching under my shoes, and breathe. And in those moments, I realize life isn't just a blur of tasks. There's texture, there's color, there's magic. And if you slow down long enough, you get to see it. And here's the secret. The more we do these small practices, the more we start to see them everywhere, waiting for the kettle to boil. Pause and watch the steam. Take a breath. Stand in line at the grocery store. Smile at someone and notice the connection. Tiny rituals become tiny anchors that remind you, I'm alive, I matter, this moment matters. And you know what I love about fall? The season itself is showing us the truth. Trees let go of their leaves. Days shorten. The air encourages slowing down. Mother Nature is giving us permission to lean inward, to cozy our souls. And the best part, you don't need permission from anyone else. You just give it to yourself. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I don't have time for rituals, let me say it one more time. You already have the time. It's not about adding hours, it's about reclaiming moments, even 1 minute at a time, and turning them into the sacred little practices that center you and nourish you. And by the time we wrap up this episode, my hope is that you leave with at least one ritual that you can start tomorrow. One tiny doable practice that makes you feel alive. And maybe, just maybe, you'll start noticing the little magic hiding in ordinary life, the moments that we've been rushing past all along. So, after talking about tiny intentional rituals and seeing them in action in real life, what actually changes when we make the part of our day? First, you start noticing yourself more. Instead of moving through life on autopilot, you pause, you breathe, and you see. The little shift creates space for clarity, and suddenly your mood feels lighter, your decisions feel easier, and even the small annoyances of the day don't hit you as hard. Second, you feel grounded. When the world is spinning, these little rituals become our anchors. They remind us that no matter what's happening outside, your inner world is yours to care for. And that's powerful. And here's a little secret. Once you experience these small shifts, it's contagious. You start creating moments of presence in unexpected places. A pause while washing dishes, noticing the light on the desk, really savoring your first sip of coffee. Life doesn't feel rushed anymore. It feels alive. And the final shift, you start to feel more aligned with yourself. You're showing up as someone who values their own energy, their own presence, their own peace, and that essence of soulful living. So here is your nudge for the week. Pick one ritual, just one, and make it yours. It could be sipping your morning tea with intention, writing one line of gratitude before bed, lighting a candle at sunset, or simply pausing to breathe for 5 seconds when you feel scattered. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to take long. It just has to happen. That tiny act is your way of telling yourself, I matter, I am here, I am alive. And if it all fails, grab a blanket, pour your favorite drink, snuggle in, and whisper to yourself, I deserve the pause. Because you absolutely do. Until next time, souls, this has been Soulful Saturdays with Saylor. A moment to breathe, live soulful, and remember, small moments, big magic. It's time to return to the beauty of who you already are because your soul deserves to be honored always. You've got this, beautiful soul. Stay soulful with Saylor. Thank you for sharing this Soulful Saturday with me. As you move through your week, carry this truth in your heart. You are worthy, you are radiant, and your presence matters. And never forget, stay soulful, stay sassy, stay you. I'll see you next Saturday, beautiful soul. Same time, same vibe, same glorious energy.